As the corporate sector evolves, Burka Africa remains committed to cultivating world-class thought leaders and providing innovative, human-centered solutions that shape a prosperous future for African governments and businesses. About Burka Africa. Burka Africa is a platform that houses expert consultants from across the African sub-region that provide strategic sustainable leadership, organizational development, corporate governance, coaching, and ESG advisory services to businesses and African governments. Burka's strategic thrust is to strengthen strategic alignment for Africa's development by bridging the gap between governments, businesses, and industry experts for leadership and business solutions, serving as a center for excellence and transformative leadership insights in Africa. The consortium is dedicated to shaping ethical, visionary, productive, and sustainable businesses and leadership across Africa. Through advisory, training, and coaching, Burka supports executives, managers, and organizations in achieving excellence, growth, and sustainable impact. Visit our website www.burkafrica.com for more information.
Hello. Good morning, and welcome to Barca Africa's May Day webinar. A happy May Day to you from me and all the team from Barca Africa. We say welcome, Kabo, Karibu, Bienvenue, from wherever you are joining. I'm Liziane Kwabeji. I'll be moderating today's program. Before I zoom into business, we would just like to know who is on the call with us. So wherever you are joining us from, just send in your chat box your name, where you are joining us from, and I would gladly acknowledge you on the program. So Barca Africa is a platform that houses experts, consultants across the African sub-region, and our focus is to provide strategic leadership, organizational development, corporate governance, coaching, and ESG advisory services. The focus is to strengthen alignment for Africa's development by bridging the gap between government and businesses and industry experts for leadership and business solutions. So today, we're going to be talking about the role of leadership in enhancing organizational effectiveness. According to Ronald Reagan, he said, the greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things, but they are the ones that get people to do the greatest things. Are you a great leader, or are you just a normal leader? Our focus today, as workers across the world are celebrating May Day, our focus is how can we guide leadership by creating some more awareness on their role in performance management. In Ghana, the theme for today's celebration is resetting pay and working conditions, the role of stakeholders. And I believe that is a theme that cuts across the concerns and challenges of various African countries and businesses. So today's dialogue is centered on how do we step up our game as leaders to set the tone? Because when businesses thrive through enhanced performance, definitely there will be productivity, there will be profit, and there will be enough to share the gains with our workers and enhance their working conditions. With me today, I have three strong people And our first facilitator is Madam Margaret Jackson. Margaret Jackson is the managing partner for Rainbow Consults. She's a credentialed coach and the founder for L&D Africa. If I want to go into her profile, I think it will take all of our time. As we go along, she'll get you to know bits and pieces of what she does. She's on the Barca platform as a consultant. Coach Margaret, you are welcome.
Thank you so very much, Coach. I'm already excited. I can't contain
Awesome, awesome. As you can see, she's a very young and active lady, but she's very loaded and she has so much to share with us. Once again,
Did you say young? Thank you.
Yes, I said young. They will get to know as you speak along. She's very young and loaded. Yes, Coach Margaret, so welcome. Then we have all the way from Sierra Leone. Yay, I'm excited because I grew up in Sierra Leone for some part of my life and I have a Sierra Leonean background. So when I got in touch with Madam Patricia, she's a HR strategist. And I was like, hey, Madam, can I speak a little bit of Creole? Because out here, when you travel and all, you don't get people to speak the Creole too. So, Kabo, Patricia. Patricia, you are welcome to join us on the call today. She's Patricia Olayemi Janga. Patricia, you're welcome. Sorry, your mic is on mute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lysiane.
Awesome,
nice
awesome.
Well.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi,
And
Madam
then, last but not the least, we have my own ICF president. He's the president of International Coaching Federation Ghana and the founder and CEO of Zoe Global Consults. He's also a management consultant and coach on Barca platform, and that is MCC Scoffrey Nanayao Yeboah. Coach Scoffrey, Presido, you are welcome.
Thank you. Pleasant Labor Day to all of us.
Thank you very much. I believe our people are very excited to hear from you. And let me just quickly check the chat box and acknowledge a few people. We have Erika Mamle Ose. She says, Happy Workers' Day to all of us from iWest UPSA Ghana. Yay! Doc, you're welcome. We have Sarah Nyama joining from Tamale, Ghana. Awesome. Lolo Adi Bafa joining from Accra. Good. And then all the way from Sierra Leone, Mustafa joining from Sierra Leone. Janice, good morning, Janice. And then Kultimu Mina joining from Sierra Leone. And then we also have Emma Hart joining all the way from Rwanda, Kenya. Awesome. Dr. Martha Adisadel College. Yay. Adisco Vice Principal is on the call. Awesome. So you are all welcome. If I didn't mention your name along in the program, I would acknowledge you, but we welcome you and appreciate you making time to join us for this all-important call. So we would delve straight into business. We are talking about the role of leadership in enhancing performance management. But before we go into performance, the role of leadership, maybe Coach Margaret, you can just, with your background, you just want to tell us a bit about what is performance management all about, right from the C-suite to the line manager to the small business owner. Can you break it down for us to know what is this about before we jump into what role does leadership play in driving performance? Thank you, Coach. Coach Margaret. Sorry, you're on mute.
Yay, now I'm back. Yes, and good question, Coach. So she's also a coach. She's my colleague as well. So now let's look at this. We hear a lot of people talk about performance management. You see, it is a continuous process, so you don't stop. And what does it do? It helps organizations to ensure that employees are working effectively. And it is not only about the organization's goals, but it's also about the individual's goals. So when we talk about this, it is beyond annual appraisals. I'm sure most of you, when you hear performance management, you're thinking about annual appraisals. You know, when we talk of performance management, we are talking about regular feedback. We are talking about goal setting. We are talking about coaching. Coach, I don't hear a lot of people talk about coaching in Ghana, but we are talking about coaching and development to improve performance over time. So it is not a short term process, it is to improve performance over time. So, and I think you said I should break it down. So, it's about setting clear goals and expectations. It's also about ongoing feedback and coaching, performance reviews or check ins, and planning the development of individuals, recognition and awards. How often do we do this? So, these are the things you look out for when you talk about performance management. And when
Awesome.
well done, performance management helps the individual to grow, the team to thrive, and the organization to deliver results. So that is
And
performance management.
awesome, awesome. And most importantly, for the business owners, we are talking about return on investment,
Ah,
the
yeah, yeah,
profits, the
yeah.
profits, the profit. Thank you so much, Coach Margaret. Madam Patricia, you are a HR strategist. One of the key challenges that a lot of businesses are faced with these days is how do we drive performance management? So help our viewers understand how can HR, the Office of the Human Resource Management, strategically link organizational goals to individual KPIs to be able to help them create a meaningful alignment. Because, like Coach Margaret said, if performance management is setting goals and helping the people through all the processes that she mentioned to drive results, how do you think the Office of the HRM, and for businesses that don't have human resource, say admin assistant, or the business owner who doesn't have the rank and file of or the full complement of all the departments, how can they link organizational goals to the KPIs to create alignment for this performance management we're talking about?
Thank you so much, Lizzie Ann. Thank you so much for this question and also this opportunity. Um, First of all, Coach Margaret already stated it that there should be goals, and we are living in Africa. You have different types of company. You have companies that are big. You have companies that are small, and there's a tendency for you to think based on the size of your company. You don't need to go into the details of fixing your goals. So the first part is what you stated, fixing the goal for each company. And the second part is one big thing that I saw in this topic is the effective leadership, effective performance management. It's not just performance management. And most times we see it as just ticking the box. This is not the case. And for you to have that effectiveness is where we come in with linking it from the goals to the people. If at any point in time you have employees that do come to work and they don't understand how their roles are connected to the overarching objective of the company, then we are in trouble. And we don't want that. So, how do we do that? We want to cascade. We want to take what we have as a goal as a company and bring it to the last man in the company for them to understand that this is why I'm waking up every day. How do you do that? One, you have your KPIs at departmental level. If we as a company do have our goals, we have our objectives, there are things that have been already established that this is what we want to achieve for the year, this is what we want to achieve for the quarter. That should be translated to the HODs. These are the heads of department. And however small an organization is, there is a structure. You will have people that are leading a big space. You have people that are leading units. So you have the departments, you have units. And from there, you can also extract clear job descriptions. Without a clear KPI of a department, it's difficult for companies, for leaders to obtain clear job descriptions, because you will
Very.
have people all over the place. You will have goals going that way, you will have KPIs going the other way, and you don't want that. So once you have clear job descriptions, then the people can understand how their daily activities, those minute activities that they do on a daily, if it's cleaning, if it's packing the files, how it connects to the bigger objective.
Awesome, awesome. I love the bit about the clarity because one of the biggest challenges a lot of HRMs are confronted with is the clarity.
Yeah.
How do we do this? How do we connect? And I really love the clarity that you yourself has brought to this. That there has to be a linkage. But let me quickly go back to Coach Margaret. Coach Margaret, based on research in the HR landscape across Africa, one of the biggest challenges that was discovered in a recent research that we did is that African organizations are challenged with the infrastructure for performance management, and that's one of the biggest gaps that we discovered. So, and diving deeper into it, we further learned that all that boils down to leadership. So help us understand, how can organizations foster this leadership to bring about helping these challenges that African businesses are confronted with. It's a bit different from the West because I think they are almost there, even though some of them are still struggling. But in Africa, our HRMs are confronted with this, the role of leadership in driving this. What role does leadership play in all of this? Sorry, coach.
So thank you very much. And I just want to do something small. I mean, I love this. And before I begin, what I would want to do is that all the participants online, I would want you to close your eyes for a moment, or maybe just soften your gaze. As you close your eyes or soften your gaze, I want you to picture a young person in your country. I see Sierra Leone. I see Ghana. I don't know if the Nigerians are on board here now. But picture
Yeah.
this young person. They are 23 years old. They have ideas. They are frustrated by the systems that don't listen. They are trying to make something happen. These young people, this young person wants to try something in tech, agriculture, policy, fashion, education, the green environment. Now, I want you to imagine they meet a leader. Now, my question is that leader someone who controls or someone who coaches? My question is, does the young person, walk away discouraged or empowered? Now, I want you to think about this. You see, what I want to start talking about is about our leadership and how most leadership control, and it's about shifting from control to coaching. And when we shift, look at coaching, that young leader finds their wings to fly like an eagle. Or if they don't find that sort of leader, they stay grounded. Coach Patricia, Nelson Mandela said it is better to lead from behind than to put others in front. When you celebrate victory, you step up and take the front line. So you see, he was saying it is better to stay behind. we realized that because of our history, we were colonialized. And so it was always, you see, the leader was someone who would give instructions. The leader was someone who would control. Now we realize that we have to shift from that. So it is very important that we start talking to our leaders, that we start helping them to change their mindset to leading from behind, as Nelson Mandela said. If we don't lead from behind, we fall into a big trouble. Now, listen to this again if I have time. Do I have time to continue?
You have 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes. Oh, then
I'll come back to you definitely, definitely. So the issue, so what you are actually saying is that there has to be a consciousness for
yes,
leadership to intentionally shift from controlling to coaching.
to
To
coaching.
coaching, not being a
Because
boss.
coach,
Yeah.
because of our history, because of our legacy. So we think that if you follow, that is it. But you don't, if you follow me, don't ask questions. Don't waste my time asking why. But we should be changing to, let's talk about what you have learned from this and where do you want to grow. The conversation should change.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we are looking at a change in the narrative. And
Yeah,
that's very interesting. You brought up coaching, coaching for performance. Recently, I was
yeah,
with Coach Scoffrey on one of the national radio stations where we were talking, celebrating, Barker was celebrating his MCC ship. And the issue of coaching for performance comes in. And Coach Scoffrey, you said a lot about the role of coaching in bringing about advanced results. So if we have the systems in place, we have built in the structures for performance management, we have our corporate objectives cascaded right down to KPI. How does coaching come into play to drive the results? Coach Scoffrey, let's hear your beat on that.
Pleasant to join and very fascinating topic. Kudos to my fellow panel for leading this pack. You see, the era where we were boxed like machines. You know, when you look at from the first industrial revolution to where we are now, even in the dispensation of AI, we've tried to model human beings like machines must function, and it has also have created a lot of challenges. Then we meet target, people fall sick. We hit the mark, people want to leave. We hit the mark, there are burnout, there are depression. Currently it is going on. All the statistics prove that we are emotionally declining, we are depressed, we are stressed, and COVID made it even worse. So mostly what the question I ask is, who takes care of the leaders who are tooled and required to take care of those who get a job done in their businesses? This is where the intervention of coaching comes in, because when somebody goes through coaching, or when a leader is leading from a place of coaching skill, there is the holisticness of this individual in that which he or she is leading for.
Yeah.
Then, if you look at, mostly when I say some of these things, I want to go back into what the human body says. What does the human body says when coaching is occurring? Because leadership is not command and control. The doing part, which is a command and control, is just one leg. Leadership is the holistic. So it is ecological. And ecological also require that you come from within so you can relate. So coaching brings the other component, which is bringing the human being. You see, the humus is just soil, but the beingness is what shifts everything around. And if it isn't so, why will Intel, why will Qatar Oil? Why will all this Silicon Valley? Why will all this magnet, Harvard? Why would they all dedicate a portfolio just for coaching of their C-suite and their managers? It is because something occurs from your head to your toe when you go through coaching. Something happens when the leader uses coaching skills to lead, because we are social beings. We are not human doings. We are human beings. If you bring that beingness out of your staff, out of your team, out of even you, the leader, something else emerges. If you look at the latest Gallup report on what employees are looking for: hope, compassion, trust. These are not doing things. These are ways of being. And that is what coaching brings to the table when it comes to leadership. For instance, my earlier panel mentioned about performance. Performance is the surface we see. But what goes on behind for the person to activate actions? That is what coaching goes to intervene. Because if you can compel me to get the job done, but how effective do I get it done? Unless what I have been sanctioned to do, my heart is in it. Unless what I am assigned to do, I am equipped with the technical know-how to also get it done to the best of my ability. Other than that, you pretend you are paying me, I pretend I'm working for you. But coaching comes in as an intervention so that people live their lives as gift to what they do, what they feel for, and what they believe in. And that is why coaching is an amazing intervention.
Wow, wow, wow. I just love the bit where you said that performance is just the surface. What goes behind for the person to activate the action is what coaching is. This is powerful. And I think every leader has to understand this fact. Before I get back to the rest of the team, let me quickly take some few comments from the chat box, and then I would follow up on some questions. Richmond says, in Africa, coaching is a problem, and leaders forget that they are leading. And then Obed Boatin says, in Africa, control is our hallmark. Wow. I can align to that. Mavis says, unfortunately, Africa has managers, not leaders. We need authentic leaders. Wow. We need authentic leaders. And I think that is the cry from most employers, and especially the younger generation. They say Gen Z, they are looking out for leadership. They don't want managers. They want people who can lead them and not manage them. They want people who can bring the being. Awesome comments there in the chat box. Thank you very much. Coach Scoffrey, just to follow up on what you were saying. So if the being has to be brought into the human for us to harness their potentials, like you are saying, there's a lot that goes on with a human being. So how do we do this? How do we go about coaching? That bit you spoke about, harnessing. Help us.
You know, the all that we know about the human being mostly is, like I said, in the performance. So we measure people only in the performance. But let's dig deep into the being. I had a client who was being promoted to the C-suite, and HR has said that he lacked emotional intelligence. His immediate boss has also said the same thing. So he was sent to coaching. And I remember my first encounter with this magnet of technology, and I said if he could permit me, for me there is nothing wrong with him, because all that HR and management is doing is measuring his performance. But what coaching can offer him is his beingness, and his journey has been incredible, because the moment coaching could bring him to himself, to sense and feel him, something shifted. Somebody who said he knows he gets the job done, he does not have time, he does not this, suddenly began evoking and emerging a deeper him, bigger than his bigger thinking. So coaching goes deep, and if you permit me to say, coaching goes deep into what we call your neurology, because we are neural beings. We are human beings that goes to the minutest level. You go and find cells, might go and find atoms. So if you coaching goes to that depth, and when coaching is occurring between the coach and the client, or a leader exploring with his staff, something begins to emerge, because it is no more egoistical, it becomes ecological, because we all bring the pool of us to the table. And leaders who lead, I read something, authentic leadership. It is not a casual word. That is what coaching brings out of the individual. You know my background in multiple brain integration techniques, where we bring the heart brain, we bring the gut brain, we bring the head brain, we bring them to the table, and each of the three brings their core defined designated function as God assigned them. And when the three agree, then that authenticity emerges. That is what coaching does. And it is proven beyond reasonable doubt by science that the more all of you come to the table, we then bring the best out of us. That authenticity, that purpose driven, that intuition, the ability to emote, that mood that brings about growth, development, not just numbers that has become clickbait that we are so fixated about. You may win and meet the target. Check 3 months, 6 months after meeting the target, most of your staff report sick, because doing is just a microcosm of the entire human beingness. And this is what coaching has to offer.
Awesome, awesome. Robert Amoafo says that we must also remember that our leaders are human beings. So we must support them to be who we want them to be. As colleagues who are led, we have a role to play. You can lead your leader if we see ourselves also as leaders. Thank you very much, Robert. That is very insightful. And yes, I think Coach Scoffrey would align to that. But Coach, before you touch on Robert, let me just quickly ask a follow-up question. You mentioned the three brains. What are some of the common brain-based leadership blind spots that hinder productivity? And how can leaders, managers, supervisors, leadership at various levels address these? Sorry, you're on mute.
Everything we say, coach, they are not accidents. It gets processed several nanoseconds before we even utter them. So let's pick the word taking decision and making decision. Which one of them sounds collective? It is making decision that sounds collective. Meaning, when you bring, for example, when you are taking this, there's something we call neural integration constraints. If you decide to make decisions and you want to use the heart function, you want to use this one to do what the heart is supposed to do, no matter how beautiful it will sound, implementation, it wouldn't happen. If both the head and the heart agree, and the gut, which is part of your identity, which is actually where you take action from, which is where you intuit, if they also don't come on board, you realize that there is deficit in the decision making. That is how come all the global magnates are saying they've stopped using only facts and figures to take decisions. Now they are making decisions by bringing their intuition on board. So that is how come you cannot take decisions. You need to be making decisions where all the three of you, in fact, there are even 5 of you, must come on board. And that is where coaching brings that deepermost part of you onto the fold, such that when I am moderating a strategic session, when Becca is offering sessions for corporate and CEOs in their strategic sessions, we only not be fixated on what their plans are. We will need to be looking at, even in the room, what is the energy in the room? What is the balance in the room? Where are all of them in their presence? Where are they in the collective interest of the business? How can they connect their individual purposes to the larger corporate vision, mission, and objectives? This is how come elsewhere they invest so much in coaching, such that they're able to take their C-suite on retreat, hire
coaches worth their salt like Baka Africa has got, so that they support their leaders to bring their deepermost self. Either than that, what is meant for the job of the heart, if you use the head brain to do, it wouldn't give you absolute result. What is meant for the head brain to do, and you use the heart brain to do, neural integration constraints and blocks, meaning they fight each other. And it is one of the challenges on the continent. That is how come we say we have control and command. It comes from our history. Sadly, our history don't only live in what we see, they also live in our DNA, intergenerational as it is. And it is coaching that allows us to go into that part, because as I ask questions, how do you feel about this? What would it take you? How would this affect your identity? What would be the collective impact and interest of the organization? Where would this take you to? How would this influence you, your children, and your family? The more your body begins to dig deeper to find answers to all this, then there's something we call neuroplasticity. All your three brains begin to fire the neurons such that they connect anew and bring the deepermost out of you. This is why coaching is mission critical in Africa's leadership across board.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Key take is that as a leader, your focus has to be more on connecting the individual's purpose to the corporate vision. And that can only be done through coaching. Great submission there. Let me quickly pick a few thoughts on the comments before I get to Coach Margaret. Winfred Johnson Williams says, when coaching meets authentic leadership, magic happens. Suddenly, your boss isn't just setting goals, they are helping you believe you can smash them. Wow, wow, wow. Coach Margaret, what do you say about that?
That's what we've been talking about. It's about coaching. I as an L&D person, sometimes I weep when I realize that people, when we offer training facilitation, we say you've got to coach. They don't. You see, most people don't get it, and because of that, we still are struggling. And I'd like to say that I think in Africa, we are yet to realize that when we coach, there's increased employee engagement. I would encourage all participants online today to go to the ICF website, and you will see research being done by ICF, which says that when leaders coach rather than control, employees feel more valued and heard. And we know that employers want increase in productivity. This directly boosts engagement. And for example, organizations, if you read the research, you will know that the organizations that incorporate coaching report 20 to 30% higher engagement scores when compared to those with a traditional performance management approach. Coach, do you want to hear more?
Yes,
It
please go
also
ahead.
leads to improved retention rates.
Wow.
So when coaching leaders, when coaching leaders, when leaders coach, it also fosters trust and development, and it leads to lower turnover. Because if I trust, if you are developing me and I feel developed and I feel that I can trust the environment, then during performance reviews, the research showed that turnover dropped by 15 to 20% within the first year of coaching. Coach, can you beat this? And I wonder why, but I always say it is because our leaders haven't experienced coaching. Because if you experience coaching, you tend to trust the system. You trust the system of coaching. you just trust the system of coaching and you experience it and you see how it's working for you, then it's not so difficult to convince you to coach middle management and to coach employees. There was
Awesome.
also, from the same reason, enhanced accountability and ownership. You see, coaching encourages employees to take ownership of their goals and outcomes. Because you see, when you see a coach, the coach is going to support you through the process to unleash your potential, to bring out what you have within. You see, you bring out the best you have from within. And there's accountability in this process. So you are able to reach your goals and outcomes. And if an individual in an organization, all individuals are meeting their goals and outcomes, it will result in a more proactive workforce. That same research, please go to the ICF website. It says team performance improved by 25. Companies who did this, team performance improved by 25% within 6 months. Can you beat
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
That is so real, Coach. That is so
yeah.
real. In line
That,
with
that,
my work,
that,
I also experience changes when people coach, when leaders coach. Let me just quickly take Mavis. I'll get back to you. Mavis says when people are coached, they don't struggle to perform well because they claim ownership, just like you said, and they feel as a valuable part of the company. Meeting targets becomes easy. This is awesome. So,
yeah.
Coach Margaret,
Yeah.
I want us to go on a short break. When we come back, I would like you to
Mhm.
just tell us about the leadership mindset, the shifts. How do we go about the
Mhm.
shifts? But for now, we're going
Okay.
to go on a
Okay.
short break. But before we
Okay.
go, for all those viewing, wherever you are viewing from, I just want you to reflect and put in your comment box. Are you leading or you are managing in your current role? On that note, while you reflect and respond, we're going to take a short break.
As the corporate sector evolves, Burka Africa remains committed to cultivating world-class thought leaders and providing innovative, human-centered solutions that shape a prosperous future for African governments and businesses. About Burka Africa. Burka Africa is a platform that houses expert consultants from across the African sub-region that provide strategic sustainable leadership, organizational development, corporate governance, coaching, and ESG advisory services to businesses and African governments. Burka's strategic thrust is to strengthen strategic alignment for Africa's development by bridging the gap between governments, businesses, and industry experts for leadership and business solutions, serving as a center for excellence and transformative leadership insights in Africa. The consortium is dedicated to shaping ethical, visionary, productive, and sustainable businesses and leadership across Africa. Through advisory, training, and coaching, Burka supports executives, managers, and organizations in achieving excellence, growth, and sustainable impact. Visit our website www.burkafrica.com for more information.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying in, and thank you for our facilitators so far. It's been awesome, the insight you are sharing with us. Coach Margaret, let me come back to you. Before we went on the break, I was asking, how can organizations foster this leadership mindset shifts, especially among the middle level and senior managers and the top management? How can organizations foster this leadership mindset shift?
So, Coach, I think I've said it early on that many senior managers in Africa learned to lead in systems that equated control with respect. And when you respect, and also sometimes part of our culture, when you respect, you keep quiet when an elderly person is speaking. And so you do as you are directed. So we need to help them reflect on and release those beliefs. So how do we do that? Because they are beliefs, they are ingrained. And I heard Coach Scoffrey say, it's in our DNA. So how do we shift? We can use storytelling and dialogue. I realize that as Africans, we like storytelling. We like to dialogue to help them to recall their best bosses. So sometimes, and this is what Becca Consortium does. I mean, can bring leaders together and in activities and in strategy sessions and in training sessions, ask people, what, how do you recall your best bosses? And surprisingly enough, and if those in the chat box, the participants can agree with me, tell me what you remember about your best bosses. Please put them in the chat box. You will realize, coach, that they are the people who listened, who coached them, who empowered them. If they tell you their characteristics, what makes them their best bosses? Please, in the chat box, help us. Who do you recall your best boss? What made that person your best boss? You will see the answers that will pop up. So when you facilitate sessions for leaders, middle management, top, and they say this, then you realize that you are leading them to coaching. So it's about, they didn't control you. So what are you going to do to ensure that you also do not control? What did they do to make you feel that? So it's also about the feeling. What did they do to make you feel that they were not controlling you? You can also start with making coaching practical, and you help them practice coaching questions in team meetings, which is powerful. I've seen this done in Nigeria, where we worked with a team, and we taught them, and they started using coaching questions in meetings. So instead of "Have you finished?" it was "What's your plan to move forward?" So you see, questions, even the way leaders ask questions changed. And I saw that happening in an organization that we worked with in Nigeria. You see, we can also normalize vulnerability and listening. When you coach leaders, yes, vulnerability. You see, as coaches in Africa, as leaders, we are not supposed to be vulnerable. But it
No,
is human
no,
to be
no.
vulnerable.
Yes, coach, let me share
And
something with you
these are
quickly,
things we must teach.
just to add to what you were saying. I had a training for a top state institution, and for their top leadership. And during the session, one of the heads of department raised his hand and said, "Madam, everything you are saying is nice. That is what it should be. But our people, if you don't scream at them, they will not give you the results." That got me thinking. And let me bring Madam Patricia on board. Patricia, that got me thinking, how do we make advocacy for this mindset shift from controlling to coaching to bring about a growth revolution across African institutions and businesses? You are in Sierra Leone. I know it's a common thing that cuts across various countries.
Wow. It has been, I'm not a participant, but it has been a learning session for me as well. Because coaching, I think I've had the word coaching the most today after a very long time in an African setting. So it's a good thing that we are talking about this, and this should be a topic if we want this shift to be a sustainable and a permanent one. And if we can just look at, I've been an HR professional practicing for 17 years now, different industries in Sierra Leone, and us looking at this topic right now brings to me so many memories of the gaps that I've seen. There are a lot of gaps, and highlighting these things that it should look like. It's not every day we see them in the workplace. And for us to have the shift from what we have at the moment that looks like leadership, some are bosses that we have in the workplace and not leaders. For us to have that shift comes back to what Madam Margaret is pushing for, which is learning and development. One major shift, one major move will be training.
Training.
Training. Most of our leaders are not trained. We assume we give them roles. We tell them that this is your JD, just by the books. And we expect they have the very great profiles. We think that they can deliver. We leave our delicate people with them. We leave the Coach Scoffrey said something that we are beings. When I had him speak, I saw motivation, how we can trigger motivation, how we can trigger engagement, how we can trigger accountability, fairness, all of it. That's the science. I see coaching now as the science behind HR, like dealing with the people, the connection with the people. But most of our leaders are not trained. If only we can adapt some of these things that we're talking about today, bring them to that mind space, teach them, and also monitor them. One aspect in our society is the thing of in context and the cultural aspect, where you look at, we know performance should be a two-way street, not so. And in most settings, especially in Africa, it's not a two-way street. It's just a one-way thing. People come, they fill boxes, they tick, 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 tick. And at the end of the day, even the conversation, even for people to get the conversation with their team members, it's a no. Oh, I've done your evaluation, but it was behind your back. Wow. and the
some do it online these days.
You do, even yes, you do it online, but even it's not about just the scoring. You can score the person, you can give them all the feedback online or Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, on Excel, on whatever HRS. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that conversation with the person. So for us to bridge this gap, for us to transition from where we are as a company, as a people, to where we want to be, we need to be intentional. And management should also look at, when I say management, I'm talking about now senior leadership. When they deliver, when they say, oh, this is your role, it's not just the KPIs that leads to productivity that management should be monitoring when it comes to leadership. We should also be monitoring what we call, how do we manage the performance of these people that have been given to you as subordinates? So in most cases, I believe it's not happening. And for us to get to that point, the two-way street thing should happen, because people are afraid to speak up in our society lately. People are afraid to speak up because of the culture of the organization, because when they speak up, they're thinking of retaliation. Some people are not even safe in their own environment. Even the policies, they are not. They don't think those policies can safeguard them. They don't think those policies can keep them safe in the workplace after speaking up. Because if I have my boss and or my leader, I prefer I get a leader, not a boss. If I get that person, we're having a performance evaluation session, and I want it to be effective. If that leader asks me a certain question, it gives clarity on the way you are managing me. Can I deliver more? And I'll be able to give you feedback. I normally tell people that if I have someone giving me feedback, it's the biggest gift you can give to me. But if I'm always giving people feedback and no one is telling me anything, I'm not growing. So if only our leadership can shift from just monitoring the KPIs that brings, for my case, I work in a mining site, that brings the iron ore, that brings the bauxite, that brings whatever we're looking for as profits at the end of the day, but also look at the aspects of keeping it monitored, that our people are monitored, the way they are managed. Performance management, as we know, most people go yearly. Most organizations are shifting from the yearly nowadays. They're going quarterly, biannually, because annually is not always the best case scenario. I will not say it's wrong, but every company that is a modern company is trying to shift from that at this moment.
Awesome.
In terms of the monitoring aspect as well, we should not make the performance evaluation session a thing of just waiting for the session, but also a daily activity. a weekly
An
activity,
ongoing process.
ongoing process that
Yeah.
feedback does not have a timeline. You can give me feedback today. If it becomes a culture in your team, first we'll say, oh, the organization does not have this culture. But yet, what are you doing in your team? What are you doing with that one person that you are evaluating, that you are monitoring? You are not making any contribution to make the culture the way you want to see it. But the little
Beautiful.
bit put together will end up getting a one big organizational culture at the end of the day. Once we
Beautiful.
have the shift, we keep it simple, we train, and we also open the line of communication, not just bottom, but also bottom top. I think we'll have that shift that we so desire.
Awesome. Great tips there. I think my key take from all that you have said is that coaching is the science behind human resource management. And in human resource management, please, for the audience, we are not just talking about the office of HRM. Every leader is a human resource manager. You are managing the human being. We have just some few minutes to go, but before then, I think we'll take something from Coach Scoffrey, and then I'll get the last words from our panel members. Coach Scoffrey, you touched on the neuroscience, integrating neuroscience into leadership development frameworks. In what practicable ways can this be done?
So I've got a short video for us to play. It's less than 1 minute. If you
Okay,
permit me, let me play it, and we
please go
come back.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got another decision to make. Right, and what's that got to do with me? Well, it's a bit of a big one, so upstairs thinks it's probably a good idea to... You're the brain cell, why don't you figure it out? Well, yeah, but brain's asking what the heart wants, so I'm a pump. I pump blood. It's not in my wheelhouse. It's just we've been told to follow our heart, so you never ask the appendix. Well, yeah, but they're useless. Or the gut. Can't trust them. And what makes you think I'm qualified? Well, because you're the emotional one. What? No, I didn't mean, I'm just trying to do my job. I've got 1 billion heartbeats to do before the end of the life, and you think I've got time to lighten your load? How about you stop fobbing stuff off to everyone else for once and actually use that brilliant supercomputer you got up there to figure it out for yourself? Chicken or salmon? Salmon.
So I just wanted to use this to reflect what we have been discussing so far, that leadership is not a thing. Leadership is not human doing. Leadership is human being. Earlier on, I tried to explain what we call the neural integration constraint. You notice that the heart and the head brain were not on the same axis. Remember when you also heard the head brain saying, because you are the emotional one, we have belabored emotions so wrongly and so badly that leaders are able to say, don't bring emotion into this equation. Any leader who does that is a boss. Any leader who does that belongs to any of the 4 dark tetras, because every decision underlining is emotional. Every decision underpinning is about feelings. That is how come when you meet the target, you shout and scream and something goes on in your body. So when people are going through the facet of leadership, authenticity is when all the 3 brains, you heard the word trust. It says, I can't trust the gut. Actually, it means that your true sense of trust is in the gut. Your true sense of belonging, your purpose and values of the corporate is in their heart. So the leadership we're looking for, the authentic leadership we're looking for, is being able to bring this insight, this knowing, this awesomeness to the knowledge of our leaders. And I agree with all my 2 speakers about training, but I have a caveat. Not just training that fascinates only the head brain, because we have done this for so many years and we keep getting the same results because we leave the neck down behind in our trainings. So for me, if any HR, any L&D, any CEO is listening to me,
if you want to hire trainers, come to Becca Africa. Why? Because a lot of our consultants and trainers are coaches. So they bring what we call transformational methodology into the training. We don't come and repeat the cycle of knowledge already explored in university. We rather come to you to stimulate, trigger, incite your holistic person, so much so that you can bring the best part of you. My last share before we go is George, if you can bring the other one, I'm trying to bring it to my last share. Anytime you hear any leader saying, don't bring emotions to the table, the person does not know, pardon them. The person does not understand, pardon them. The person lacks the insight of the potency that emotions are gifts to us. Emotions are embedded. We are emotional beings before we could think. In fact, if you look at my forehead, all of us have got forehead. From here, my hairline to this part of my eye, where we call the prefrontal cortex, it is the last part of the brain that grows at age 24, 25. So before this executive function could do or say anything, could even regulate, who were we being before? Emotional. Who were we being before? Feeling. Who were we being before? Moods. So it is at Becca Africa that when you come to us for our neuro-emotional intelligence, you come for our neuro resilience, you come for all our neuro products here and there, we don't teach you. We evoke in you all the giftings that is wired softly, hardly, gently, lately in you, so that your leadership is not robotic. Your leadership, it's not command and control. On the onslaught of AI, the beautiful thing is that the emotional being, the mood being, the authenticity is what AI can never do. Because like I've explained, your gut from your mouth to your anus is a brain. It's your first brain. From evolution, when you were being formed, it was there before even the heart came on board. The heart is your second brain, and this is your last born of the brains. And I said, there are even additional two intelligences. It is when you participate in what we do, you get to explore more. So leadership is not a thinking thing. Leadership is not human doings. Leadership, authentic leadership, is human beingness, ecologically, neurologically, and collectively.
Awesome, awesome. Leadership is about managing the human being. Like Madam Patricia said, coaching is the science behind human resource management. So it's all about the human, the being, the people that run and drive your businesses for profits. All too soon, we have come to the end of today's session. A lot of chat in the box saying, hey, we need more sessions. Yes, this is just a teaser one. We're gonna organize more sessions where we get to share relevant information and new knowledge that will advance our leadership. The focus is on advancing leadership in Africa to help driving African economy and businesses. So thank you so much. Before we go, let me get the final words from, let me hear from Patricia, and then Coach Margaret, and then Coach Scoffrey.
Wow.
All the way from Sierra Leone. Patricia, let's have your final words.
And specifically Port Loko, Lonsar, north of Sierra Leone at the moment.
Awesome.
It's been a great session. I want to say I've been thrilled, excited, and I've learned a lot personally. And just to round up on all what we've been saying here, HR from my perspective, from my field, the professional side, and how leadership, the role of leadership in enhancing performance management and performance management in the workplace today. HR has transitioned from personnel management over the years to strategic leadership. So I want to say today we've delved into the realities of that particular transition. And for all what we've said here today, growth is the way. Growth is the next step. Leadership, recognition, and establishing goals, and also connecting what people are coming to work for and what the company is in need of is what we've connected here today. I believe we've benefited, the participant has benefited from what we've said here. And as I've seen from the comment section, it's not the last. And I hope to be part of Barker's Africa session again. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Definitely coming back. For those in Sierra Leone, Barker is wrapping up in deep talks with Smart Start Sierra Leone, and very soon we're going to be running a lot of leadership and coaching and HR development trainings and seminars and conferences. So keep connecting on our various social media pages. From time to time, you receive alerts and on upcoming events. Coach Margaret, your final words.
Much, Coach. I saw a question and I would like to answer it before I give my final words, because I think that is a question that bugs leaders all the time. And when we talk about vulnerability, so when we talk about vulnerability, we are talking about the fact that a leader can be authentic. And I've heard it being said here severally. You become humble and humane. That is not about saying you are weak, but it's about building trust, fostering connection, and to model courage. You see, sometimes when we make mistakes as leaders, we are afraid to say, I made a mistake. So it's okay to say, I got this one wrong. And here's what I've learned. Because they all know you got it wrong. So why are you behaving as if you didn't get it wrong? And I don't have all the answers. I have found a way of telling my staff, I'm not God, neither am I Google. And these days, so I used to say I'm not G, neither am I G. But these days I say I'm not ChatGPT or I'm not AI. But you sometimes even say it in a funny way. And it signals respect and creates that psychological, and I'm sure Scoffrey will explain this better, psychological safety for others to contribute also honestly. You see, so you can share challenges, you can share genuine care, you can be open about growth areas. I'm working on being a better listener. It's okay. It's okay to say these days, I realize that I'm not listening the way I should, so I'm working on it. I remember when at my age, I'm menopausal, so I remember I would tell my staff these days, I know I talk too much, so I'm trying to stop myself. These are things we say to show that we are vulnerable. I hope I've been able to answer that question. I mean, I couldn't live with myself not answering it before leaving. All that I want you to remember, because I see my time and I realize we are running very, very late, is performance reviews may check the engine, but coaching fills the tank and hands you everyone on this group today, buckle up. Your team's potential is waiting at the next exit. So if you want to perform, please, coaching fills that tank and will hand you the keys. Those are my last words. Thank you.
Performance review.
And it's been awesome being here today. It's been
Coach
awesome.
Margaret, take it again. Performance review does what?
You want
I love
it?
that phrase. Yes. Performance review.
Performance reviews may check the engine. It will check your engine for you. But coaching fills the tank.
Coaching fills the tank. Coaching fills the tank. So let's keep filling our tank.
Keys. And it will hand you the keys as well. So buckle up. Your team's potential is waiting at the next exit.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Coach Margaret. Thank you very much. Coach Scoffrey, just in less than 1 minute, your final words.
I have seen many lives evolve from chaos to celebration. I've seen leaders shifted from disruption into development. I've seen people float, glow, and grow. whatever we've shared here, if you can, reach out to Burka Africa and explore more what we've got to offer you, because the leadership we seek to shift this continent is not the political leadership. It is in the hands of you and I. Then the experts you need to shift our leadership are not beyond the continent. They are within the continent, who are even doing stuff beyond the continent for other continents. So it is very peculiar for us to understand that your leadership was not embedded in you for your only sake, but you will need to nurture it so others can benefit, so you can light the candle of others. That is what leadership is about. Thank you for being here with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Coach Scoffrey. So harness your leadership so that you can effectively lead others and help them harness their potentials. That's a great one there. Thank you so much, facilitators. I'll just take a few announcements and then we will call it a day. So like we said, Burka Africa is a platform that houses several consultants across Africa. And most of our consultants are experts in their own industries, leading their own firms or working with state and governmental institutions. L&D Africa has an upcoming event, and that's using AI to magnify the creativity of African boys and girls. We'll share that with you privately after this program. We'll give you updates on upcoming programs. And then we have KAOD Consults, that's Dr. Kofi Anochi, and they are into ADR services and all the rest. All that information will be shared with you inbox. But most importantly, and I'm very excited to share this with you, hooray, hooray, hooray to not only Ghana, but the whole of West Africa. Ghana, Burka Africa, in partnership with ICF, Continuous Education, and Zoe Consults, we're going to be running the first certified coaching training in Ghana for ICF Level 1. And that would be replicated in other West African countries because we don't have the certified coaching training. So for all of you leaders on the call today, human resource management practitioners, this is a program for you. Details will be shared with you in your inboxes. Get certified. We have a lot of people walking around calling themselves coaches. They are training in your institutions and all. Beware. Anytime somebody says I'm a coach, ask them, are you certified? And you, as a leader, you must also be certified. So we'll share details of that and upcoming programs with you in your inbox. This is not the last. More events will be coming your way. But before we go, a final takeaway for you. There is a need for systemic leadership shifts, and that must be intentionally planned by leadership and leaders of businesses and institutions. You have a responsibility to harness the potential of the people you lead. Beyond the structures, you have to invest in a systemic shift from controlling to coaching. And that is why Burka Africa is here for you. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you have any follow-up, you can link up with us on all our social media handles, on LinkedIn or on the website, www.burkaafrica.com. Thank you again. God bless you. And happy May Day.
As the corporate sector evolves, Burka Africa remains committed to cultivating world-class thought leaders and providing innovative, human-centered solutions that shape a prosperous future for African governments and businesses. About Burka Africa. Burka Africa is a platform that houses expert consultants from across the African sub-region that provide strategic sustainable leadership, organizational development, corporate governance, coaching, and ESG advisory services to businesses and African governments. Burka's strategic thrust is to strengthen strategic alignment for Africa's development by bridging the gap between governments, businesses, and industry experts for leadership and business solutions, serving as a center for excellence and transformative leadership insights in Africa. The consortium is dedicated to shaping ethical, visionary, productive, and sustainable businesses and leadership across Africa. Through advisory, training, and coaching, Burka supports executives, managers, and organizations in achieving excellence, growth, and sustainable impact. Visit our website www.burkafrica.com for more information.